Welcome everyone, and as promised, we are joined by Six Nations elected chief Mark Hill, and we're going to be talking band council resolutions that were recently passed and the newly erected project that is in the works and what's happening this weekend as well. Good afternoon, Chief Hill.
Good afternoon.
So, where would you like to start?
Well, I'm going to begin by making an address to our community.
Awesome.
So, Scano, Sego, and good afternoon, Six Nations. Yesterday we took the bold, responsible, and very difficult step to announce that we are phasing in restricted access to our territory as our ongoing response to COVID-19. Today I'd like to make a personal call to action to all Six Nations residents. We need your help, and we cannot do this alone. We continue our call for volunteers, highlighting the need for those with medical training, especially in the area of respiratory health, is being echoed. If you would like to volunteer, please visit www.sixnationscovid.ca and sign up today. In addition, we are seeking your help reaching into your network as Health Services is actively hiring a number of positions, including cleaners, personal support workers, registered practical nurses, respiratory therapists, registered nurse paramedics, and physicians. This call to action also includes raising the threat level. We need to take the necessary steps and start taking COVID-19 seriously here in Six Nations. The lives of our most vulnerable and our elders are at stake. We cannot afford to wait for our first case to be discovered before we start to do something about it. Yesterday, on the recommendations of the Emergency Control Group, the Six Nations Elected Council announced that we would be restricting access in and out of our community. To be clear, Six Nations residents will still be able to leave the territory for medical appointments, groceries, essential supplies, work, etc., and that this is not about putting up barricades in our community. We are not doing this. We are putting in measures to restrict the flow of traffic coming into our territory. We do not know if visitors coming onto the territory are infected, and we need to take these restrictive measures to prevent the spread within Six Nations. We will begin activating Project Protect Our Elders today, protecting the community, especially our elders, our knowledge keepers, our legacy from the rapidly spreading, sometimes deadly COVID-19 virus. Here is the timeline for Project Protect Our Elders. Step 1, yesterday we announced COVID-19 Project Protect Our Elders to our community. 2, yesterday and today, that training and preparation will begin. 3, Monday, March 30th, will be to communicate the plan and begin restricting access. And 4, by Tuesday, March 31st, restricting access will be in full implementation. Further details of the plan will be announced in the next days to come. The Emergency Control Group continues to meet daily, including the weekends, developing plans to keep all of us safe. I would like to acknowledge their efforts in calling a community emergency, daily monitoring of the impact of COVID-19 within our community, developing a system for screening, assessment, and in-home paramedic COVID-19 testing, establishing of a COVID-19 info and assessment center at the Six Nations Community Hall, implementation of a communication plan and launch of a COVID-19 dedicated social media platforms and website, development of a plan to ensure essential services continue, increased and secured an adequate food and water supply for our overall community. The Six Nations Elected Council's action are done to slow the spread of COVID-19 in our community and its deadly impacts. We understand fully that this temporary way of life is tough and that there are financial concerns for many households. It is with this in mind that Council has actioned motions aimed at providing some relief for Six Nations members during this time. Let's be clear that these decisions come at the financial cost to Six Nations of the Grand River. The following have been implemented. The waiving of fees at public works, such as truck fill station, water and sewage, and septic until April 30th. Should you require assistance from public works, please call 519-445-4242. Second is the waiving of fees for water hauling until April 30th. As of March 27th, please call Wilson Water Haulage at 443-6806, along with ASAP Water Haulage at 519-445-4848. We have also worked with Six Nations Housing on the waiving of loans and rent for those administered by Six Nations Housing. That will be until April 30th. These actions will be reassessed before April 30th to determine if additional action is required. The Six Nations elected council is working around the clock to ensure we have the necessary financial resources to support our emergency plan and the strategy developed by the Emergency Control Group. We are closely monitoring the health of everybody in the community, especially that of our brave men and women on the front lines of this pandemic. If you hear of a possible infection within the community, the first and only call you should make is to the Oswego Public Health Office at 519-445-2672. They are trained healthcare professionals and ready to contact the appropriate people after so. If you're experiencing any symptoms, please begin to self-isolate right away. That's step one. You must also call the Six Nations COVID-19 information line toll free at 1-855-977-7737 and advise them of your condition and plans to self-isolate. Anybody under self-isolation must do so for at least 14 days while monitoring their symptoms and overall health. I want to remind everybody that any home with a person under self-isolation should not receive any visitors. I would like to thank everybody for their continued cooperation, patience, and calm as Project Protect Our Elders unfolds. We have a plan in place, and we're following that plan to protect Six Nations territory and the overall health and safety of all of our people within it. I'd like to again end by reminding everybody that the true strength of a community in the face of adversity is how we protect our elders and most vulnerable. Thank you, Nyawa, and continue to stay updated as updates become available.
Thank you, Chief Hill. May I ask a couple of questions?
Sure.
Because I'm sure that the community probably have some of the same questions in mind. Have you heard anything about the schools?
So again, I've been in contact with the RDG, who again is reassessing the situation. We know April 6th, it looks like the province is going to be extending that date as well. We've been following suit in that effort, so we're going to continue that dialogue and discussions as we move forward. So we're assessing the situation on a daily.
Okay. And the other question that I had for you is with regards to once the barricades are up and operating, are there only going to be certain entry and departure points?
So I just want to be clear on the term of barricades, right? The goal is to restrict the access of flow of traffic into the territory. So I don't want to necessarily be misconstrued with the term of setting up barricades. However, we are looking to the restricting of the access of the traffic into the territory. And yes, that would be part of the plan, is to have specific entry points.
Do you have it determined yet as to what those entry points will be?
So those are all forthcoming in the logistical details that are being planned as we speak.
Alrighty. So I suppose we may hear more tomorrow.
Possibly even maybe this afternoon or evening.
Okay. And all of this information can be accessed on your website?
That's correct.
And Facebook?
That's right. All our social media platforms. And again, we're utilizing every possible, I guess more or less media measures that we can take to make sure that we're being well in advance communicated to our overall community.
Thank you, Chief Hill.
Thank you.
I'd also like to take this opportunity as well to remind our listeners at CKRZ, don't forget to check our website. You will also find a link for Six Nations Council's Facebook page, and we also have the latest press releases from not only Six Nations but other communities as well.
I just even just to close off, I want to add that, you know, we still, the last thing that we want is to incite fear, and the last thing that we want is to damage any potential, you know, relationships with our neighboring communities. I think that's an important piece to mention, that, you know, we have to do what's in the best interest as to what we're seeing, what's happening across the world. And I think that's you know, this decision that we're being made, and you know, it's been difficult to, you know, go and see some of the comments that are happening across social media and within our community. However, please keep in mind that this is, again, what we're doing in order to protect our people. And I think that's what has to be the main focus at this point. Keeping in mind that we're here to support businesses. It's not like, you know, we're here to dictate or to try to even look like a dictator. It's looking to be as a protection of our people, and I think that's what leadership has to do.
No, understandable. It's not all about cutting off services to outside communities or to keep them from doing business with us. You know, we'd rather the latter happen, of course, but there's a lot of communities around the world that are in exactly the same boat. That they've got cities that are shut right down.
Exactly. So we're just taking the necessary steps that we feel that we have to.
Thank you, Chief Hill.
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow.